Well, President Jacob Zuma is nearing the end of his first term in office. If elected to serve again, he's likely to face a tough time. For some analysis, we're joined by Professor Kwandiwe Kondlo, a political analyst based at the University of Johannesburg. Prof, good morning to you. Good to have you with us this Monday morning. Let's start off with this. I mean, we've come out of this insert about the legacy of Nelson Mandela. People, no doubt, still in their minds continue to somehow compare our first democratic president with the progression to the current president we have today. And in light of that, how is Jacob Zuma being viewed?
Well, I think President Zuma is being viewed very negatively in certain quarters, and of course in other quarters quite positively. So it's a mixed bag. But I must, however, underline that it doesn't matter how we view him, the circumstances are different. The period and contexts have actually changed. We have moved from the age of hope, the beginning of a new democracy in South Africa, during Mr. Mandela. And we moved to the phase of Mr. Mbeki, who dealt with technical issues of actual implementation. And then we've shifted to the period of Mr. Zuma, which has been characterized, quite unfortunately, by some challenges. Yes, especially I would say the contaminated moral environment of leadership, which has happened during his time. And it is this contamination of the ethical leadership environment which has made him not to be viewed favorably in certain quarters. But otherwise, in terms of actual performance on the ground, Mr. Zuma has tried, President Zuma has tried to build on the successes of his predecessors. There's a lot which is good which has happened during Mr. Zuma's presidency. That one we need to underline. The fact that we are not satisfied with certain aspects of what I would call ethical leadership characteristics expected of a president should be viewed slightly differently. But I think on the practical scale, really the government has tried its best to deliver as best as possible to the citizens of the country.
It's very interesting that one has to weigh these as a voter at the polls on the 7th of May. As you mentioned, there have been strides made by the ANC. Service delivery has improved. We've also seen the growth of a large black middle class, which didn't exist before ANC rule. How do we balance this with the scandal around something like the eNCA issue?
Look, the issue around eNCA and a whole long list of other issues where the president's ethical standing has actually been questioned. These issues, they cloud our perceptions and understanding of what government as government has been able to do. And it's quite unfortunate because I think it's going to impact, even if it's true, it's a 2%, 3% impact, but it's going to impact on the majority support of the ANC. And unfortunately, these issues have actually eroded the goodwill. Many people who are not necessarily ANC card-carrying members, but who voted for the ANC, their goodwill has been eroded. And you must remember that South Africa, we're able to break out of the web of apartheid and have an election because of the moral high ground Nelson Mandela assumed, and because of the ethical leadership credentials and stance that he consistently maintained. So these issues are very, very important, and I can see some ANC leaders trying to dismiss them. These are very, very important. We can't have a government we don't trust. We can't have leaders we don't trust. Trust is so important. And that moral high ground is what the ANC has to try and reclaim. Otherwise, the future of the ANC is going to be very bad.
Do we have a government we don't trust, or does that government simply have a leader we don't trust?
You see, the problem is that what is happening at leadership replicates and affects the institutions of government. You see. Hence, you find that even the judgments that come out of the courts, people question them so much. Everything that happens, you see, by government, there are lots of questions. Even the surveys that have happened, you see, you'll find that from the surveys, people don't trust certain institutions of government. They don't trust political leaders. So the issue of restoring trust is going to be very important for maintaining the democratic legitimacy the government is going to need after the elections in May. The government is going to need serious democratic legitimacy if it is going to be able to perform, you see, to the betterment of our society after the elections.
That legitimacy almost seems to be in the bag, because it's a foregone conclusion the ANC will most probably win the election. One doesn't know by how large a margin at this point.
Yes, we don't know how large a margin. But if we'd be careful, we must not conflate voting with democratic legitimacy. Democratic legitimacy is much broader than that, you see. You need a whole package of things to have democratic legitimacy. A government which delivers, a government which listens to the voices of actual citizens, a government which is responsive, and a government which actually cares, and actually cares about the kind of service, frontline service, that goes to its customers, that we call a legitimate government. It's not just about casting a vote during the elections. So we need not conflate these two. The fact that the ANC is going to win the elections, yes, I still believe they're going to win. We'll be surprised if they don't. But that is not enough.
Prof, one final question to you at this point. Let's move on to the issue of ANC internal politics. What lies ahead for Jacob Zuma as an individual within the party after this election?
You see, Mr. Zuma has extremely powerful political management skills. Extremely powerful political management skills. But I think after 3 years of his second term, we're going to see certain forces within the ANC who are going to stand up to him very firmly. And the attempt, I think the concern within certain leadership sections within the ANC, it's what I said, that the organization, even though it has the number, the organization has lost the moral high ground. And Mr. Zuma himself has not played a very good role in providing the kind of ethical leadership which is an imperative of an emerging democracy.
I'm going to throw one last quick question at you, Prof. We know that Numsa's Secretariat report is going to be presented to the CEC next month. It still states the ANC's anti-worker policies are a problem, and it wants Jacob Zuma out. What does Numsa's role in all of this mean for Zuma?
Numsa is a very significant political force, and it has strong lobby powers. One must not undermine what they are saying and think that it's just a section within COSATU. Numsa is a very powerful voice, and it has an ideological position which many of the factions don't have, a very clear ideological position. So I think we need to watch the space and see what's going to happen after this.
Prof, very good talking to you. Thank you so much for coming in today. Political analyst, Professor Kwandiwe Kondlo.
Know more about your world.
eNCA.com